Hey guys, how's it going? Venture Investing here today. So today we're talking about Virgin Galactic SPCE. Now this is Q3 2022. They just came out with their earnings and we got a little bit more information, a little bit more insight as to what's going to be happening next year. Take a look at the stock. As of recording this after hours, it's been hovering around up 3% or so. Roughly 2.6 something percent. It was up about 1% today. So today we're going to be talking about this earnings presentation, whether I still hold the stock. We're going to be going through the presentation itself, and then we're going to be going through their financials as well. But before we do any of that, let's go through the main items here. Not a lot to see. Of course, we're dealing with Q3 2022. I did Q2 2022, which I believe I missed on this channel, and then Q1 2021. Revenue this quarter was $767,000. Now these are in thousands. I put it here. Quite a bit better than the last two quarters. So we got a little bit of that revenue, not from commercial operations, but still we've got a little bit of revenue there. Net income was a loss of $146 million. Last quarter was $112 million. 93 before that, so still not great. Of course, they're burning through cash right now, especially cash flow, because they're trying to ramp up to actually flights and actually commercial services. The one bright spot as well as cash. It's remained pretty constant, but we're over $1 billion. They're saying about 1.1 billion, but from what I can see, it's about 1 billion 69 million. Last quarter it was over $1 billion, again a little bit more, but about the same, and about the same quarter before that as well. So these are the main items. There's not a lot to look at on their financial statements. What most people are looking at is what they're going to be talking about in the presentation. So we're going to get into that right now. So they knew what we're looking for. They were looking for commercial readiness. So the first thing that they talked about was Unity and Eve. Now this wasn't last quarter. It was actually Q1. I'm not too sure what they said last quarter, but they were saying they were estimating commercial service for Unity to be Q1 2023. Now they're saying estimated commercial service is Q2 2023. They were basically saying Unity is ready for test flights. First, they're going to be doing a glide, and then they're going to be doing a crew flight. Of course, they're on track for Q2 2023. So again, I don't know, comment down below, guys. This company is pretty famous for pushing things. But I mean, that's when at first I was like, oh yeah, 2023, but that's just around the corner, right? If they can actually follow through with that, we're not very far out, but I'm not too sure that they actually push that forward a month or not. But it sounds like maybe the first quarter is when they're going to be doing this testing, but it's ready to go. And then they estimate it to fly about once a month. They also talked about Eve, the next generation of those as well, but specifically Eve, they talked about how they upgrade the pylons and a couple other different things, and they're saying early January, the first test flight. So that kind of coincides with the Unity there as well. They then also had these pictures here. They didn't talk much about this. The inaugural Space for the Curious, basically where they could bring their families, talk about it, a whole bunch of nothing. Future fleet development. They talked again about the Delta class spaceships, and specifically their suppliers. Of course, they had that news that came out today about their supplier. A lot of this I didn't quite understand. They're talking about the Feather system, flight control services, different things like that. This remains to be seen. I believe last quarter they talked about a new Arizona facility. So this is the next generation. I like to see a first Unity up in the air, stuff like that, right? But also when they were on the slide, they talked about their next generation motherships, the partnership with Aurora, and that's next generation is going to be about around 2025. The big kind of shitty news here was they talked about they're reassessing the timeline for Imagine for commercial flight service. So last quarter, like I said, I think it was Q1. They said it was mid 2023 for a revenue generating flight. And then mid 2023 for somewhere around there for the commercial service. And now they're saying this will not happen. They talked about on the conference call in 2023. This actually came out after when an analyst had asked a question. So you can just write this off the docket for 2023. What does that mean going forward? I don't know. Again, like I said, I'm not too focused on it. Maybe others are. I'd love to hear you guys' comments on that. But basically write that off for this year. I was very curious about the reservations as well, and this is one that you could kind of take either way. So they said they're still holding around 1,000 reservations. They reserved 100 of those for research. and 100 set aside to this Vertesso. I can't say that word, sorry guys. So they closed that off a while ago, but that didn't really give a lot of information in terms of the demand. He also made the CEO made a comment a little bit later in the conference call that they had kind of demand. I don't know specifically what he was talking about. I didn't quite understand, but demand pent up almost until 2024. So comment down below if you know a little bit more of what he was saying there, but it sounds like they have more demand than they know what to deal with, which I guess makes sense in this case because they keep pushing back the flights and stuff like that. They actually haven't got anybody, any commercial services space, right? So that one, I don't know. I go back and forth on that one. I'm not sure exactly how I feel about that in terms of them not opening up, but then again, they don't have a product that they can deliver. So this is why it's going to be very keen going into 2023 here. So next on the presentation here, they talked about their financials, but we're going to go into their actual financial statements here, talking about the income statement here. First, there you go. There's your revenue of $767,000. Now they're comparing this to a year ago quarter, right? So it's good to get that as well. Big difference there. $2.5 million. Of course, that was a good quarter for them. I'd have to look, but I think that might be when the stock was up around $40 a share. Again, they're talking about this customer experience. I talked about this in my last video. I'm not too sure what this operating expense is, but it's definitely went up. $590,000 versus $207,000 a year ago. Again, R&D, which is a good thing in this case, is up to $97 million for the quarter, and that's comparing to $34 million a year ago. So their operating loss for the quarter was $145 million, and that brings it down to total comprehensive loss when we have interest income and different things like that of over $146 million. Looking at the balance sheet here, cash and cash equivalents, marketable securities short term, marketable securities long term, that adds up to that $1,669 million roughly. So the total assets are quite large there, about $1.2 billion ish. Total liabilities are only at $645 million. So that's not too bad, but also keep in mind that they've been diluting to get that cash flow. They haven't even put it on their balance sheet in terms of debt. They've been taken out in terms of equity. Taking a look at the cash flow statements here. One good thing, I feel like I don't say this a lot here lately, stock-based compensation actually fell to $34 million versus $48 million. This is a 9-month period, comparatively speaking, not sequentially, but year over year. So still way too high in my opinion, but at least that dropped a bit. Maybe they're watching my videos. Yeah, who knows, eh? Capital expenditures, of course, under the cash flows section of or the investing activity section of the cash flows, $12 million versus $2.4 million, huge difference year over year. And also another interesting thing, purchases of marketable securities. They did $604 million in the last 9 months versus $286. And you can see that reflect on their balance sheet. So that's a pretty good thing, I guess, in terms of managing their cash. They also had some proceeds from the maturities of marketable securities of $294 million. So the cash used in investing was $322 million. So that was an outflow. Also, we talked about them issuing, they actually talked about this during the conference call, that they issued some more common stock. So in the last 9 months, we had almost $100 million that came in. Dilution is not great, and I never love it. But in a young company, yes, it happens a lot, and I've seen it happen a lot. So the cash and cash equivalents and restricted cash ending balances were about $434 million in the period. So what do I think of the quarter? I don't think it was a great quarter, but it was what I was expecting. Actually, maybe a little bit better than I was expecting in terms of revenue, in terms of potentially I had hope that it's going to be, and I still do, that it's going to be early next year, which is only a couple months away. So this is going to be crucial to see what happens with the stock. In terms of if I sold or picked up any. Kept a certain amount I had, and I picked up a little bit more when it tanked, so I'm up a little bit on that because it just started getting so cheap here not too long ago with everything going on in the stock market, right? So I couldn't help but pick up a little bit of it. So finally, I think we're coming to the time where we're going to see whether they push it back again, or in 2023 we have some commercial service going, we have some people up in the air. I would love to know what you guys think. I'd love to know if you think this is going to happen in 2023. If it's not, own shares, love to know it, guys. So that's gonna be it for today, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.